Protect your digital privacy with Silent Pocket's product line of patented Faraday bags, phone cases, and wallets, which will make your devices untrackable, unhackable, and undetectable. Use discount code SHAREDSECURITY to receive 15% off your order during checkout. Visit silentpocket.com today to take advantage of this exclusive offer.
Ooh.
Whoa. I know we're big time now, Kevin.
Oh yeah. Is that custom?
Yeah. Yeah, that's our custom theme song for the show. You didn't know
Nice.
that?
No, I did not know that. So I'm going to post this in the Professional Evil Slack channel.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
All right. Hi, everyone.
I don't know.
You'll get all your coworkers showing up, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, welcome to the show. Welcome to this impromptu podcast. Right? Yeah. Yeah. For those of you listening, if you don't know Kevin Johnson,
You're lucky.
well, yes, you are lucky, but Kevin is a frequent guest on the show. He's the CEO of Secure Ideas. He's a fan, or let's say you have an obsession. Is it obsession or addiction? Is that which word would you choose?
About Star Wars?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I would go with obsession.
Obsession? Is that okay? Fair enough.
I mean, is this too much?
That's a Chewbacca stuffed animal? I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm built. Probably.
Probably.
So yeah.
All right. Well, welcome to the show, and glad to have you back on to talk about a very important topic. Oh, and look who's joined us in the chat room. It's Mr. Market. Oh, no.
Mr. Market.
Yes, feel free to troll Kevin Johnson.
Oh, he will. By the way, Tom, yesterday we were discussing the new website for Secure Ideas.
Yeah.
And they were looking for pictures to add to the website. And there was a serious conversation about adding the picture of you shooting me between the two eyes at AppSec DC.
I think you should do that.
I know you think so.
Yes. Yes. I have that video somewhere.
I was looking for the video. On my Facebook profile, I've got the 3 individual shots, right? Like before, in, after.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find the video. I know the people at Secure Ideas would love to get a hold of that video if you were willing to share.
Well, maybe I will uncover that video in my hard drive archives. I'm sure it's there. So.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. So there's a little topic you wanted to chat about, and I'm kind of calling this the state of training and certification in our industry. This is a hot topic, is it not, Kevin?
It's definitely hot under my collar.
So what is your opinion of the state of training, just in general, in our industry?
It sucks.
Yeah.
And that's probably not an appropriate comment. I don't think it sucks. I think that the state of training in our industry, our vertical, or whatever you want to call it, we have a good amount of training available, and the training, there's lots of high quality training. But I think that we have 2 big problems with it. One, that training, while high quality, is also ridiculously high priced. And I think we did some math on, and I want to be very clear, because I the minute I complain about training, people say, "Oh, you hate SANS."
Here it goes.
And I don't hate SANS.
No.
I think SANS produces great quality, but we actually looked at a number of training providers, and I think we came out that the average training cost was $5,000 based on our math. And considering the fact that we sell courses as low as $25, you can imagine the the range there. And I think that there are certain places where that training cost makes sense. We could talk about that if you want to. I had a very good conversations with Dragos about that. but I believe that we have this huge bar for entry. I think that's the first problem. Um, I think the second problem, and I'm as much to blame for this one as anybody else is, I bet, is that so much of our training is geared toward commercial success for the people providing the certification. Is that a polite way to say
Yeah.
greedy capitalists?
Okay.
Uh, right. So I think that's the two problems. We have one, a high bar of entry for
Hmm.
cost, and two, I think we have a problem where we are driving knowledge just to check a box.
So why do you think the training has gotten so expensive over the years? Just in general. I'm not
Because
not picking on Sands, but just
yeah,
in general.
because it can be. Because it can be.
Hmm.
I Now that's not always true, and I'll point out Dragos's conversation. I posted something ranting about affordable training on Facebook, and you know that my life revolves around ranting on Facebook. Uh, okay, maybe not.
You like blocking people on Facebook.
I don't think I've ever blocked anybody
Oh,
on
really?
Facebook.
Maybe other
Yeah.
people have blocked you. Maybe that was it.
Oh yeah, I've been
Mm.
blocked.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, Ask Jason Scott how he gets past. And I really meant it as a question. I wasn't
Yeah.
trolling him. Um, but I, I I was talking to Dragos and I posted this rant, and he came back and he came up with some valid reasons. For example, um, CanSec West, they have these, like, I think they're two day classes, and the classes range. I want to say it was around $3,000 for the course, and that seems like a really high cost. But when I talk to Dragos, the reason those courses are so high in price is because they're taught once,
Hmm.
right? Like, he goes to people who have this amazing skill and this great knowledge, and he says to them, "Hey, can you teach other people how to do that? And we're going to run the class once, and that's it." So literally, they're trying to recoup the cost of building a custom class that can be taught one time and never taught again, right? Well, in that case, yeah, that totally makes sense that it's really expensive. I'm not saying necessarily that that's okay, but I understand the reasoning. Um, but on the flip side of that are companies like pick a company, right? Where they teach a boot camp every week or every other week, every month, a year. So we're talking 26 times a year they'll teach a 5-day course, and they're still charging $4,000 or $5,000 for that boot camp, right? To me, that's just greed, and greed might not be the right word, but I think it's because we have come to accept that the price of a course is $5,000.
So you wouldn't say it's supply and demand. There's more demand for training, therefore time to raise the prices, right?
Yep,
No.
I think that a lot of companies think that, right?
Hmm.
And as a hardcore capitalist, I've said for years I want to be protested by the Occupy movement. That's how rich I want to be. Um, I get that, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable to say. There's a huge demand for this, very small supply, so I'm going to charge more. I think where that falls down, and I know you've heard me say this before because I've said it to you, uh, is that we see a huge problem because I'm somewhat successful, right? People seem to like me and hire us, and they do work all the time, and that's good. I'm not complaining about that. But I am only successful because I've stood on the shoulders of giants, right? I am where I am today because I learned from people like you,
And
right?
I learned from you.
I appreciate that, but
It's all mutual, but it's the same. Yeah, I could say the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, and so I think that we have, and this sounds mushy or whatever, but I believe that we have a moral obligation to provide the next set of shoulders, right? If people can't stand on our shoulders, and if we're charging them $7,000 plus just to take a class, which is asinine, um, they're not going to be able to stand on our shoulders. Because I'll tell you, as an individual, if I went to my wife and said, I want to spend $7,200 for a 6-day class, plus travel, plus certification, plus, 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 plus she's not only going to make me sit on the couch, sleep on the couch, she's going to put the couch in the yard, right?
That's not good.
Right. And then if you flip it over to I'm the CEO of a successful company,
Hmm.
and I'll pick on Nathan because he's in the chat window talking about the different cars, right? And I think he's got a good point. If Nathan was to come to me and say, "Hey, Kevin, as the CEO, I want you to approve me going to a $7,200 course plus travel plus certification plus," I'm going to say to him, no, because I can't afford to send 20 people, which is my staff, and we're small,
Yeah.
for $7,000 plus travel plus, right? We just can't afford it from a company. So that's why I say we have a moral obligation to provide low cost training and options, right? And Nathan has a point. Does it really take 3 times more time
Hmm.
to build a Maserati than it builds a Nexus? And yes, Nathan, I am looking forward to you standing on my shoulders.
Yeah, it's interesting because I see like the Black Hat courses as an example, right? Really good courses. The training is phenomenal, and everybody says that. When they go to a
Yeah.
Black Hat course, it's phenomenal. And the price is, I can't say, and I can't compare of what it used to be like 5 years ago. It's always been in the thousands, right?
Yeah.
$2,000, $3,000. That really hasn't changed, but I tend to think a lot of people see value of,
Yeah.
but something that's 8,000 for a 1 week class versus, Black Hat's what, typically 3 days.
Yeah. Let's go
So
with 3 or 4 days.
plus you usually get to go to the briefings as well. So there's an added kind of bonus to it.
Yep.
So I guess you have to look at what do you get out of the training.
Yeah. And I'll flip that around to something like uh well, secure ideas. And I'm not using this to promote us, right? We are a training provider, right? We have a 3 day class that is online right now, totally recorded, totally available, and we're selling it for $250 per student. We've publicly documented our training costs. If you want to take a class live with an
Yep.
instructor, we're billing $250 per day per student, right? So a 3 day class, which in my experience, we teach you as much in that 3 day class as you learn in a 5 or 6 day web pen testing course, right? For $750. And then we're giving a huge discount to veterans if it's not free.
Mm-hmm.
We're right, and I'm using us as the example because I can tell you from experience that that is profitable to us. We're making money
Yeah.
on that $750 student. Don't get me wrong. We're not doing this as a loss leader. We'll make up the loss in volume. So if we can do it, everybody else can. And we've talked to lots of companies. Josh Marpet, who was in the Slack, was in the chat. Josh is offering training at that price, right, or around that price. We've talked to, and I'm totally blanking, the National White Collar Crime Center,
Mm-hmm.
right, where they're offering training at that price or around that price, right? So we're seeing a movement in the price. And look, there's always going to be a SANS or a CompTIA or the training center or whatever company you want, right?
Yeah.
That is going to come out and say our cost is 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or $27,000. But we've got to fix that because Alan Powler talks about the skills gap, right? Alan's been talking about it for what, a decade?
Yeah.
And Alan's a smart guy. I like Alan. And he talks about we have this huge skills gap. You know that there's at least some type of skills gap, right? And we have to fix that. And
Yeah.
so, in my mind, the way to fix that is to get more training out there. And I'll be blunt. I want to make a lot of money. I want right. I want to buy the Maserati.
There's the capitalist.
Yeah, I really don't want to buy a Maserati, but I'd like to
Ferrari.
buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tesla.
I'd like to buy another
New
Sand
Tesla?
Trooper.
No.
No,
No, not in the Teslas. Okay.
I really like the idea of a Tesla, but I live in Florida and getting home in time to charge it would not work. Jacksonville doesn't have a lot of charging stations. But we have to fix it, and I think in my mind, there, Nathan will take the Tesla. I don't believe Tulsa has that many charging stations either. But um, I think that there's two ways to do that. One, I think we need to move more into a lower cost model. We have to get training available to people. Two, I think we have to change how we train. Um, uh, Here at Secure Ideas, and again, I'm not trying to promote us. I mean, I'm always trying to promote us. I'm a greedy capitalist, but we're actually about to roll out a new training program. We started it with the CISP, where we're doing a mentorship, where it's an ongoing weekly
Hmm.
process, so that you actually learn the materials, not just cram for the test. And we're about to roll it out for application security. We're actually calling it pasta. Uh, the because you got to
Pasta.
come up with, yeah, pasta.
Okay.
Your code, you've got spaghetti code. We have pasta, and so pasta is the professional application security training and advisory service, and it literally is a hands-on training class that is geared over, let's say, a 10-week program, followed up with ongoing advisory from senior consultants. So the
Okay. Yeah.
developers or security people. And we're doing that because we've had customers come to us and say, we have to train our staff. We're losing skilled security people to be consultants or to go to other companies. We have to ramp up the people who are able to
Hmm.
do this stuff, and we have to do it in a way that isn't send them away for 3 or 5 or 6 or 12 days, and they need ongoing, kind of like an apprenticeship journeyman process, right? And David just said, isn't pasta a threat modeling tool? And CISP training for the win. Yes, pasta is a threat modeling tool as well. But the goal is to provide, and again, like I've said to people, you don't have to come to Secure Ideas for this. If you're having somebody do application security testing for you, ask them to be that
Yeah.
advisor, right? Uh, Work with them and do this. Um, because we got to train people. We had this young lady take the class with actually Nathan and Eric. They did this network pen testing course. 17-year-old girl. I'm not going to name her on purpose. Um, Holy jeez, she was amazing. We had actually trained her teacher last year at one of our events, and he came back to us and said, I have this young lady. She is so smart and she is so skilled, and I want to get her out there into the real world. And so we gave, she bought a seat in the class. We gave her a discount, and not that it matters, but and she sat for 3 days and blew our minds as to how much she knew and how great she was at it. Now, she was absolutely a
Hmm.
newbie. She was absolutely trying to learn, to the point where we had her come back into the office the next day after the class, and she spent the whole day here in the office. Just incredible. We need to start getting those people.
Yeah.
And Nathan just said, probably the most engaged student in a 20-person class, right? And we're talking professionals, people who
Hmm.
were like adults. And here's this young lady, and I keep almost saying her name, and I just don't think it's appropriate to say her name, right? Um, Incredible. If we can get even 10 people like that to get engaged, we got to do it.
Yeah. And I
And
think
I know
that's,
you have
yeah,
been doing this.
totally. It's that barrier of entry, right? How are we going to train the next generation in our industry
Yeah.
if the barrier of entry is so high and so expensive?
Yeah.
Because to your point, a lot of people, a lot of companies aren't going to pay the expense of a training
No.
like that. Or a lot of people just starting out or just getting into the field may not even have a job yet. So they have to pay out of pocket for those types of
Yep.
trainings.
And even if they do have a job, I just talked to a guy last week, right? He's an IT guy, and he does really good at IT, and he's really interested in security. He went to his management because he gotten the latest brochure catalog in the mail, and oh man, comes with a poster, and this is awesome. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
I no, I don't either. And and he's like, I went to my management and said,
Hmm.
I want to get into that field. And this is a guy, this isn't a guy like straight out of college. This is a dude that has a decade or more of experience in IT. He's been doing good work for this company. He says to him, hey, I want to go take one of these courses. And the company's answer was, well, that's really nice, but you're not in that role, so why would
Hmm.
we train you on it? And he tried to get them to understand that he wanted to move into the role. He tried to get them, like, he was willing to sign a contract that said, I'll go to this training and I guarantee I won't quit for 2 years or some crud like that, right? And they still said, look, that's not your job. Why would we train you? And he can't afford it. So now, luckily in his case, he's a veteran.
Hmm.
So we gave him the veteran code, and he's got some courses from us. He's working. We gave him some pointers to some other organizations that also give training to vets and what have you. Because look, I don't care where you get the training. If it's good training, go get
Yep.
the damn training. Um, and hopefully that's going to work for him. But I don't say he's lucky he met me, because nobody's lucky for meeting me. But right, like, he had been looking and
Yeah.
couldn't figure out where to go.
Yeah. So what's some good advice for people that they want to get into cybersecurity, want to get into this field? What should someone look for in a training provider?
Well, one, I'd like to see that the training provider has a goal, right? Like there are. That's I don't know if that's the right way to say it. We see too many people who will go to a training provider, and that training provider's focus is, I'm going to get you that cert,
Hmm.
right? Whatever that cert is. Um, I don't think that's a good place to start if you're trying to get into the field. Because I'll tell you right now, and I know you're a hiring manager, I'm a hiring manager, right? Heck, we've got open positions. I'm assuming you do as well, right? But I'm not going to hire somebody just because they have some G
Yeah.
letters or C letters or whatever letters after their name. I want to know that they have the skill set we need, hands on. I don't want them to know tools. I want them to know techniques. I want them to understand the underlying stuff, right? So going to a training provider that has a fully featured curriculum
Hmm.
is really important. Not just, I'm going to get this cert, or this cert, right? That's one. The other thing I'd like to see is that the training provider is teaching techniques. Ask, right? If you get a curriculum from the training provider and it's like, we're going to teach you SQL map, W3AF, burp, and this, go somewhere else, because you don't want to just learn tools.
Right.
And as a tool course author, I know what I'm talking about, I think. And what I want to know is, how do I use those tools? What are the techniques to find the vulnerability? What is the technique to do the threat hunting, or whatever, right? Um, that's the second thing. And then the third thing is that the training provider is at least somewhat recognized in the
Hmm.
industry. And that's a hard one, right? I want people to know who that training provider is. If you just go to Joe, Billy, Job, Bob's
Learn to be
training,
super hacker for $30 that you see
yeah,
on Facebook, right?
yeah, don't do that. And if I may, I'm going to pick on places like Pluralsight or whatever. Um, there's some really great material on Pluralsight, right? Um, but with that really great material is also really crappy material, because there is not a consistent delivery mechanism
Yeah.
for the instructors. And I'm just picking on Pluralsight. There's lots of sites like that where they just get a whole bunch of people to provide training and they shove it together for a subscription price, and that's not necessarily bad, but you just got to be careful what you're getting into, right? Look at the material, look at who the provider is, who that individual instructor is. Because I'll tell you right now, not every company providing training has a Nathan Sweeney. Not every company that's providing training has a Jason Gillum, right?
Hmm.
Those two guys, and I know I'm biased, they work with me. Heck, Jason's one of the owners of Secure Ideas. Um, but those two guys are two of the best in the business. I'd way much rather learn from him, either one of the hymns,
Hmm.
than Bill Jones that happened to read a book on PHP last night at a Holiday Inn Express and then recorded it, right?
Yeah.
So that's just me.
And now a word from our sponsor, Edgewise Networks. Organizations' internal networks are overly permissive and can't distinguish trusted from untrusted applications. Attackers abuse this condition to move laterally through networks, bypassing address-based controls to spread malware. Edgewise abstracts security policies away from traditional network controls that rely on IP addresses, ports, and protocols, and instead ties controls directly to applications and their data paths. Edgewise allows organizations to analyze the network attack surface and segment workloads based on the software and how it's communicating. Edgewise monitors applications and protects data paths using zero trust segmentation. Visit edgewise.net to get your free month of visibility. So you mentioned certifications. Do you think that certifications are valuable anymore? What's your take on people obtaining certs, and what certs, if any, should people pursue?
I believe that they are important in some cases. There is a benefit to a cert. Don't get me wrong. I'm teaching a SIS mentorship right now.
Yep.
Right. Nathan can't get on the plane because his head swelled so big. I was talking about a different Nathan Sweeney, because there's so many of them. I think that certs have a good purpose. One is if you've got some, I think a cert is the same as a college degree. And I know there's people who are cringing right now. They're different, but the same. And this comes from the guy that barely made it out of high school. A cert proves that you were able to sit down, focus, and attain a goal. That's great. Now I want you to show me you know how to use it. Right. So I believe that there are good certs. I think that the CISP is an interesting cert. It's got a bad perspective for a lot of people. A lot of people hate the CISP. But I like it. I think if you understand what it should be done for, it's proof that you know fundamental knowledge, not that you're technically skilled.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't. Yeah, and the problem is too many people have used the CISP as a bar to say you know stuff.
Yeah.
Right. That's not what it is. I think that the OSCP, while wildly unrealistic, is an awesome certification to show dedication and knowledge. I think it's a great cert for that. I have not yet looked at Offensive Security's new web.
The web
cert.
one, yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't looked at that yet, and I will acknowledge I'm a competitor, but I've heard good things about it from people who have taken it at Black Hat. I almost said Blue Hat. That's a different thing. yeah. Microsoft Offensive Security. Yes. I don't know, but I think those are good. There are some really good GX certifications. The GCIA, which is the Intrusion Analyst cert, that was one of the hardest tests I ever took. Right, I bar none. That was one of the hardest tests I've ever taken. And I want to be very clear. Out of the 3 main certifications I got from GIAC, 2 of them I challenged, which meant I didn't take the class and I didn't have the books. Yeah. I went into a test with the knowledge I have from working in the industry. And I'm not saying that as a brag. It's not a brag. It's proof that you can take a GX certification without shelling out $7,000 for a class. Take the class if you want to take the class, but I passed the network. I passed the forensics and the incident handling classes with a score high enough to let me teach both classes. So it's possible.
Yeah,
those are good certs. And go take the class if you can afford to take the class. They're good classes.
Real quick,
I'd like to see more certs.
Yeah, going back to the CISSP, do you still feel that is a requirement by a lot of companies? You know, that they always said that you have to have CISSP as your resume keyword, right? To land a job in security, you got to have a CISSP. Do you feel that that's the same as like 5-6 years ago, or does it even matter anymore?
It's exactly the same as 5 or 6 years ago. The issue is, in my opinion, it wasn't completely true 5 or 6 years ago, and it still isn't completely true. There are lots of companies that will hire you without a CISSP. I own one of them.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go.
And I believe you work for one of
Yes.
them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Do we like the CISP? Yes. A matter of fact, I've got a number of my staff who are working through the
Sure.
process right now to get it. But I don't think it is not an entry bar for me. And I know lots of companies where it's not an entry bar. Where it is an entry bar, pimps. I'm sorry, recruiters. I there are
Headhunters is the proper term, Kevin.
headhunters. Yes, yes. Hmm. So there are a lot of headhunters, or whatever you want to call them, and that it's a bar for entry. And the reason it's a bar for entry is because the person doing the resume searches doesn't understand what they're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd rather
Uh-oh.
a headhunter. I'm sorry, they're pimps. I do the work and they get a portion of the money. That is the definition of pimp. So I don't want them to be technical geniuses. I want them to be excellent at getting my face in front of people who want to hire me, right? I don't care if they understand the difference between a mainframe and a Lambda. I could care less, all right? I want them to be better at presenting me. And for them, having a CISP many times is that bar.
Yeah.
So I think that our industry is very, very networking bound. And I don't mean IPv8. I mean, right, who you know, who knows you, who are you connected with, who can help you get further ahead. I absolutely believe that. And so I think that if you don't have those connections, the CISP is absolutely a bar. If you do have those connections, the CISP can't hurt. I've never looked at somebody, and I know there's people on Facebook. I just saw people at InfoSec World last week when I was there, or actually today's Friday, so this week when I was there, where they had not a CISP. Okay, great. I'm glad. You're so hung up on my use of an acronym that you wear buttons. I think that other than those people, having it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I like it.
So switching gears a little bit, you had a incident that you wrote a blog post about, which, by the way, was somewhat related to training, right?
No, it was completely related to
Yeah,
training.
and actually completely. But so there's a blog post, and actually, I'll just show it here on the stream. We'll link this in the show notes too for the podcast. But I read this, and I know we're friends and everything just between us, but to tell the world, this is probably the best write-up of an incident that I have ever read from a vendor. And you are a security consulting vendor. This is how, in my opinion, this is how all incident reports should be handled, in 100% transparency.
Thank you. That means more to me than you probably know. I'm still mad about this incident. I'm really pissed. And I'm not going to say the word I want to use because I don't want to ruin your rating. But just apply an F-bomb right to the beginning of this
I'm kicked out of iTunes because of Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, probably. Damn security researchers. Yeah, we had an incident. Well, so I struggle with this. We did not have an incident. Our vendor did. But the vendor had it on our website, right? Like it's so for the people who don't know, today's Friday, not last Friday, the Friday before. Yeah, Friday before last. We realized, and I'm actually who discovered it, which is wrong. When the CEO of a company is who finds the breach, there's a problem. Hey. We had two jackholes. Is that allowed to be said?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah. Ignorant wastes of carbon who escalated their privileges on our training site. Now, our training site is run by a company, Academy of Mine, and I want to be very clear, they have been awesome in their response. the initial response to the ticket, like the level 1 support guy, he sucked. But
that's a level 1 support, of course.
It's a level 1 support guy. Like, what do you do? Hi, somebody writes to you and says, "Hey, I think we have a breach. Help!" And they're like, "Ah!" So, two guys escalated their privileges. They became administrators on the site. They did it about 4 days apart, and we believe that they leveraged a vulnerability in WooCommerce. There was a vulnerability that was announced late last year. Our vendor uses a very, very customized version of WordPress and WooCommerce. That according to every piece of data we can find, and we have torn it apart, they appear to have escalated their privileges and then never come back.
Wow.
So I think, and I have no proof of this, right? I can't point, well, there's the tool. I believe from things we've seen from one of these guys before.
Yeah.
So one of them scans our websites about once a month. He's constantly probing us. He's got a bug in his ear about secure ideas, and he's constantly scanning us. He's actually why we added a CAPTCHA to our request form, because he's not smart enough to get past the CAPTCHA, which is, and yes, I'm being mean. I personally want to fly to his house and burn it down. I've been told that that's not the appropriate response.
No, probably not.
So I believe that they ran a tool and the tool didn't understand the response from our website, because our website has been customized. The vendor has customized it so much. And so they don't realize they escalated their privileges, which
that
is hilarious.
So interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Now, so legally we have no requirement to tell people, as far as we can tell, but we don't want to be the hypocritical jerks. That's why the title of the blog is "We Take Security Very Serious" and other trite statements, because we laugh, right? How many times have you laughed at some organization go, "Well, we got breached, but we take security very seriously"? No, you don't.
Yeah. Here's your free credit monitoring service for 1 year.
We're not giving free credit monitoring for this one.
So, thank you.
Yeah, if you want free credit monitoring, send me your social security number. Don't send me your social security number. That was a joke. So we decided that what we should do, and Nathan was a big part of this conversation. Jason was a big part of this conversation. Heck, the entire company was. We decided to walk the talk. We have been saying for years that companies should talk about what they did, what they found, what happened to them. And we see too often where companies won't do that. So we decided that that was what we were going to do. I still want to go burn houses down. I'll admit it. I'm not a nice person. I'm really pissed because at least one of the people used the veteran discount code to get free training from us. I have been told by both Jason and Nathan that it would not be effective marketing to say that our training is so good you'll be able to hack us. That's probably not a good one. And so that's what happened. They elevated privileges. They could have gotten access to names, email addresses, billing address, billing phone number. But like I said, according to our logs, and since we have so many other logs from them, while we can't prove a negative, right? That's logically impossible to prove a negative. We do believe very firmly that they didn't get data, but we also wanted people to know. So what we did was we sent out an initial notification to the people who may have been impacted, saying, "Hey, this happened," and I bet you got that email. And then a week later. And we worked. The one thing that drove me crazy is we found out on a Friday and we waited until Monday to tell people. The reason we waited till Monday was because I didn't want to be one of those jerks that releases the information 4 minutes before everybody goes home on Friday. Yeah. It was a very long weekend for me because I hated the fact that I knew, and I felt bad that we had not released yet. We were still doing analysis, so there is a little bit of that. Like, let's get as much data as we can. But mostly it was, let's not be the jackholes that release on Friday and hope Trump tweets something rude right after we announce. So that work? So if you
Yeah.
have any specific questions, I'm willing to share whatever we have, other than the two guys' names. And the security researcher comment for the people whose feelings I've hurt before. I've actually gotten phone calls from
Yeah.
friends upset that I make fun of security researchers. I believe that there is absolutely such a thing as security research, but if your research involves running Nessus against my IP ranges, you are not a researcher. You are a jackhole.
Agree 100%.
Um, so uh, the problem is that most people don't understand what this entails. Like, these two jackholes ran a script against our site. They elevated their privileges. They can feel good about themselves. I don't think they should. I think they should understand that they are scum and wastes of carbon. But we ended up, every single one of my consultants stopped working on Friday to move into response mode. I mean, we burned so many hours dealing with this. Let's not even talk about reputational harm. Let's not talk, because we can't measure that. Um, for an event that appears to have caused harm to no one,
Hmm.
we still had to react. We still had to move. Our vendor spun people up to deal with this. They had to tell whether or not other customers of theirs had been impacted, or whether it was targeted at our site and only our site. Um, they then moved us to a new server, right? They gave us single tenant access instead of multi-tenant access. That cost them money. That cost them issues. I mean, like, all around badness because of two jackholes who were bored. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying really not hard not to say the words I want to say, Tom, because I'm trying to preserve your iTunes rating.
We
But
we all know what you want to say. How about that?
oh, good.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, just follow me on Twitter. I've said it there many times, and we'll say it again.
So you said that you had names. So were you able to use like open source intelligence to find certain information? I'm just curious. You don't have to go into details, but
They registered with what appears to be their real names.
wow.
And we've done a lot of backtracking to see if they really are those two people, and it appears that they are. So it could absolutely be the
Huh.
Chinese have hacked into the Russians, who hacked into these two guys'
Uh-huh.
computers. We don't believe it is. We do believe, from things these two people have talked about online, they both go around with the idea that they are security researchers. They quite often post pastebin articles or blogs
Hmm.
about the website they researched. Now, that is another thing that backs up the idea that they got no data. Neither of these two morons have mentioned stealing data from us, whereas they appear to be quite proud of announcing who
Huh.
they've. So yes, I am also really irritated with the one guy who is active duty Air Force.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, that's interesting. Hmm.
very. We have decided internally, and I reserve the right to change my mind at any moment. We have decided internally not to ruin these two morons' lives. Whereas, like, the one guy, we absolutely could. One phone call to his CO
Yeah,
would be a
between all of
very.
us that know we know people in the military and Department of Defense through our
Yep,
jobs, that would be very easy
yep.
to do. Yeah.
Hey, you might want to talk to so and so about his behavior.
Wow.
We've decided it's not worth ruining their lives. I'm
Hmm.
angry. I mean, I cannot explain how angry I am. I'm willing to help anybody who wants training. If anybody ever came to me and said I can't afford your training, guess what? Done. Here you go. Anybody who wants a place to try stuff out, heck, we push out Samurai WTF time and time again as a free environment.
Hmm.
We open sourced an entire 6-day class to teach people how to do this stuff. We've given them the places where they can play legitimately. I don't understand this need to break the rules. And I think that as an industry, we have an issue with that. We have too many Chris Roberts and Kevin Mitnick standing on stage promoting the idea of doing stuff illegally. That is the other side of the training thing that I want to fix. I want us to be an example of what to do, not what not to do. Sorry, I'll rant.
No, no. In fact, I think that's a good topic for another podcast because that is,
I
especially when you talk about security research and
Yep.
what that means in the age of bug bounty programs, crowdsourced pen testing. This
Yes.
is like this is a whole industry now. When you remember 5 to 10 years ago, this stuff didn't exist. So, and I think we've gotten to a point where we all need to have this conversation of the role of good security research,
Yep.
what a bug bounty program actually means,
Yep.
and what a pen
Absolutely.
test is,
The
because
problem
there's different things
the
with all that.
problem is we've been talking about this for years. Chris Nickerson has been talking about it for
Oh
years.
yeah,
You and I have been talking about it for years.
totally. Yeah.
And every single time you and I stand up on stage, and for anybody who doesn't know it, you and I have presented together many times. I'm a better person for having worked with you. For every time you or I stand on stage, Chris Roberts stands on stage and talks about flying a plane sideways. For every time that you and I stand on stage and talk about what people should do, Kevin Mitnick talks about the fact that what he did wasn't wrong and he shouldn't have gotten in trouble. We have too many of these people, and I'm just naming two of the egregious ones. We have too many of these people who believe that the bar to entry is to show how bad you can be. Let's not talk about the Nazi living in Libya right now, right? I mean, like, all seriousness,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can talk about it over and over again. And look, I'll be on any podcast you want to discuss it. I'd love to discuss it. Too many people, it's too sexy to be the other guy.
And
And
that's now, is that the fault of that hacker culture?
no, I don't
No.
think it's the fact of the agriculture. I think it's a fault of the idea that people can become hackers and security people without understanding how to build. We have too many people who have started in the industry by tearing stuff down instead of building stuff up. I think that it's one of the reasons you and I've talked about this, right? I don't hire people who are just security people. I hire people who have been admins and developers because I think that when I hire a Mike Whitehorn Gillum or or an Eric Keane or Bill McCauley, um, they know what it is to build stuff, whether it's as an administrator or as a developer. They understand what it took to build it. And so when I teach them how to tear it down or they learn how to tear it down, they still have that mindset that we're supposed to be building. We're supposed to be doing better, right? We're supposed to be helping, not just laughing and winning, right? Um, that's the issue. I don't think it's the hacker culture. I don't have a problem with hacker culture. I you know, I was napalm death on the bulletin board systems, and I'll right, we can talk about all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
we can have that hacker culture and still understand building.
And I think the other thing is ethics, right? There's very little talk about ethics and doing the
Yep,
right thing and just morals of our job, right? Because we
yep,
see all the bad things and we see how easy it is to gain access to data, to break into buildings, to
yes,
compromise someone's information. And I think a lot of times that goes to people's heads and
yep.
it can really turn someone into a criminal pretty quickly
Without
if you
even,
don't
and
have the
many
right.
times,
Yeah.
yep,
Hmm.
without them even realizing it. I laugh all the time when I took the CEH as a joke years ago. There were no ethics questions on the certified ethical hacker test. Right now,
Probably
my
aren't
understanding
anymore.
is, well,
Or has that
my
changed? I
understanding
don't
is
know.
that's changed. I don't know. I
EC
took it years ago
console.
as a
Oh boy.
joke.
Uh huh.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there were no ethics questions, and that's important,
Yeah.
right?
So, anything else you'd like to mention while you're on the show here? We have a couple more minutes.
I yeah, buy all of our training.
Buy all your
I
training. Go to
I I do want to
securideas.com. Yeah.
reiterate, if you are a veteran,
Yeah.
active duty military or first
I
responder, please
agree.
reach out to us.
Yeah.
Right, that's available to you.
Yep.
And if you're not and you have trouble paying for it, reach out. We'll work it out with you.
Awesome.
So
Any questions for Kevin in the chat?
I'm worried. I
Besides,
know some of
yeah,
in the
yeah.
chat.
There's a few people. Yeah. He's waiting for. Uh-oh.
Uh,
Here it comes. Awesome.
cool.
Well, great chat, Kevin. I think
Thank
well needed, and of course, always appreciate your views and your commentary on these very important topics. And I like your hashtag, that you're doing on Twitter about affordable training, and you've really spent a lot of time focused on this
you. We're
because,
trying.
and it's important. It's
Yeah.
like we talked about on the podcast, it's very important for everyone to be aware of and to get affordable training.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kevin. Thanks for everyone that joined the chat and the live stream. And you can check us out at sharedsecurity.net. Feedback on for the show, of course, on all the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, we're all over the place. And feedback at sharedsecurity.net for any questions or anything you'd like to send Kevin, not malware.
No, not malware.
Or malicious links, but... and you can visit Kevin's site at securideas.net.
Net works, but it's .com.
Okay, it forwards to .com. Got it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining the show, and we'll see everyone next time. Boom. You like that?
That was awesome.